is just like very important for me to for me, I can't sell my soul, what I think is my soul, for anything. Like, um, there are morals that I live by internally that I'm
Hmm.
not willing to compromise for any amount of money, for any amount of opportunities. And I feel like if I on one do you ever feel like you could be further if you didn't have those boundaries? Like on the ex in the external world, like there are opportunities I could have took advantage of if I would have just like ignored my own moral compass or my soul to build a relationship or to go towards an opportunity that didn't feel right with my spirit, but it would have benefited me financially. I think I would have propelled myself higher, but would have ended up taking steps back if I would have took that on anyway.
Yeah, I think when you don't listen to that internal compass, you are actually setting yourself back over the long haul, even if momentarily you feel like you're rising. And I actually think, you mentioned, oh, if you didn't have those boundaries, I actually think I've entered into relationships or done things, or taken things because I wasn't clear about the boundaries.
Mm,
And now I feel like that I'm in such a space of clarity right now in this moment, that my boundaries are getting really strong, and that's really, I kind of feel like I'm going back into hermit mode. Like I felt like that a few months ago, and then I felt like I came out of it, but that was more during like the shadow work time. Now I'm energetically in a really good space, and I'm finding a lot of clarity, but I'm like going back into hermit mode. I feel like because I'm putting up boundaries in a lot of places that normally they would be like teetering boundaries where
mm.
I wouldn't be very clear about them, which is not the other person or other situation's fault. It's really my fault for
Yeah.
not being clear about my boundaries. And I feel like because I'm now clear about that as well, it's causing me to go inward and spending a lot of time alone in a different way than I ever have before. And I'm
I
actually
love that.
getting really comfortable and like feel good about having boundaries, because I think this is the first time in my life that I've really felt comfortable setting boundaries
Yeah.
all across the board. Because while I've always had things that I'm very staunch against, and like internally things that like I won't go down the path of, that to me is different. Setting boundaries is playing around with the real world,
Yeah.
and in the moment saying, oh no, that's not for me, or oh no, you can't cross this line, and then you keep moving instead of just staying away from it.
So now you feel like you're in a position where you're staying away from it.
I feel like I'm in a position where I used to just stay away from things,
Okay.
right? And if I got myself in a situation with someone or something that at first felt good, but then started to cross my boundaries, I would not be very clear about that. And I would just let it happen. And internally, I would have some issue with that, but I'd be like, oh, how can I say something now? I never set the boundary.
There you go.
Now I feel like in the moment when something comes across me that I don't like or that doesn't sit well with me, I'm setting the boundary in the moment.
100%.
And I don't think I've ever really done that before. Now that I'm doing it, I'm like, oh,
Yeah, that's all
that,
I had to do.
yes.
Cuz you so man, so this is powerful because you see yourself as a very logical person. You wasn't clear about setting those boundaries in the beginning because you naturally assume that the other person would naturally understand those boundaries should just be common sense.
Yes. 100%.
And so when you realize that it's not common, what's common for you isn't common for the next person. Now it's like, man, I gotta like be very vocal about my boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
A- And it's a very uncomfortable, it's a very uncomfortable transition, especially when you've built up a relationship with somebody before you got clear about what those boundaries were. And then now you're like, damn, this person is in my life and there's some history, but they're crossing boundaries that I didn't even bring up in the beginning. So I really can't blame them. It's kind of like how I used to be with customers, right? I think I told you this a few weeks ago where I was like, I told somebody this. I don't know who I told, but I was just like, in the South, we were like big on Southern hospitality. And I used to tell customers, hey, yeah, call me anytime. If you need anything, give me a call.
Mm-hmm.
Anything. And then when my phone would go off at 10 o'clock at night, 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock in the morning, I'm like, who the hell texts somebody this late about business? Like, what the hell? And I told the guy I was working for at the time, I told him like them, man, these tenants are texting me like 10 o'clock at night, 9 o'clock at night. Their parents are texting me. This has got to stop. And he looked at me and said, well, you told them that they can call you anytime. And I said, I didn't mean like anytime. I mean like in reason. He was
Mm-hmm.
like, you didn't say that though. So ever since that day, I've been like very specific about who I am, what my relationships, what my connections to people are, which is why it goes into social media. This is why I am so vocal on social media, because I don't want a Jolly Rancher sapsucker to tell nobody who I am. Like, I want to tell you who I am out of my mouth, and I don't want to
Mm.
leave any room for question.
Mm.
And I think that's a powerful position to come from. It is clarity.
Yes, it is. Nobody's going to find something out about you that you're not willing to state about yourself, basically, right? That is so
Exactly.
powerful. And it's just like we've been talking about really living in your authenticity, right?
Yeah.
And I think that is something that's so important.
Yeah. 100%. 100%. 100%. It is. It's very important to live in that place of knowing. And it's definitely something that people you have to acknowledge it first and foremost, I think. And then you also have to be willing to either have that conversation with the people that you didn't set those boundaries with, or ask yourself, is this worth even just severing the ties with it?
Yeah.
Because it could be, I don't want to be seen as a flaky person, but at the same time, like even in business, I've been willing to let customers go as I became clear about the type of customers we wanted to take on.
Hmm.
um Friendships as well, like I just any relationship, like
Do you have a
this is
problem with being thought of as flaky? So this is something I've thought, and I think you and I have this really similar personality where some
yeah,
people that know us I know people think of me as flaky.
some
And
people
it
probably think
used
of me as flaky too, but I don't
and I
care though.
used to be bothered by it, and it's so funny. It's so funny the way like things work. There was actually an episode of Friends that made me start thinking about it otherwise, and I don't know if you know the show well or the characters,
Mm-mm.
but Phoebe, the one that's like hippie and like kind of like very free-spirited. There's an episode where the three girls are kind of like arguing because the one girl said, "Oh, you're this," and she's like, "Well, I'm not a pushover, you know, and then like they show her kind of being a pushover and they're like, well, Phoebe, we've decided that you're a flake. And she's like, oh yeah, I'm a total flake. Like, yeah, I know I'm a flake. And I thought,
Absolutely.
oh,
Just
and she's
own it.
like, yeah, of course I'm flaky.
Yeah.
Like, yep, that's me. And
100%.
I thought, oh, I can be okay with it just has such a bad connotation. To
Exactly.
me, the flakiness is not that like, because now, you know, there's all this talk about do what you say you're going to do and da 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 da.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
I feel like so many times we get obligated to do things we don't want to do when
Yeah.
we could just be like, yeah, I don't want to do that. And
Yeah.
so many people see that as flaky, where I see that as staying authentic.
Staying real to
Right.
yourself.
But I think where it becomes the gray line is that I need to not say yes to things that I don't want to say yes to, that I want to flake out on in the
That's
first
right.
place.
That's
Right.
right.
I need to have the clarity and authenticity to say no from the get go. However, because that's not always the case,
Yeah.
like, and I think you're right too, when it comes to different relationships that we have in our life. Sometimes I think the higher road to take is just letting something go and not feeling like there has to be this final conversation and
Yeah.
I have to have this last word. Like, the other person or other people might see it as flaky, but I see it more as this, like, I'm taking the high road
Yeah.
and just exiting from this being a part of like my daily existence.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's not always worth the conversation. And I think a lot of times when we feel like we have to have that final conversation, it's because we feel like we have something to prove.
Yeah.
We have to prove that our position is right or whatever.
Yeah.
Sometimes I don't care about any of that. I just want to. And I think if the other person never says anything to you about it,
They already know.
That's what I mean, that's how I feel.
That's
It's like
how
they must know. Otherwise, they'd be like, hey, like, what's going on? If
I
you were
call that.
truly just a flaky, weird person, right?
Yeah. It's like I like flaky people. To me, because a flaky person is somebody that values their self more than they value me. And
Yes.
and I call and that sounds strange. Back when I used to like when I was coming up and being a teenager and all of that stuff, running with a crew of guys, they would always talk about loyalty. And I say I don't need
I hate
loyalty.
it.
Yeah,
Mm-mm.
like I don't need freaking loyalty. Cuz loyalty can be used to, if I know you're loyal to me, like if I like some people that are in a position of power will use your loyalty to them to their advantage. And so I always told people, man, I don't need you to be loyal to me. I just need you to be loyal to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Because if you're loyal to yourself first, you're naturally going to be a good person to me.
Right.
And so I like flaky people because, like, for instance, my friend Josh, we could plan a fishing trip. And like, yeah, we're going fishing 7 o'clock in the morning, right? And he'll literally call me 6:30 and say, "Hey, bro, I'm sorry, I can't make it." Or I might call him and be like, "Yo, man, thing just came up," and it's no big deal. Like
Yes.
we're gonna pick up where we left off. Like things happen. Now, if it's something where we both have invested a substantial amount of money, or you know, there's things that one person could lose out on, then of course I'll go through with that process. But I call it breaking free from the institution of obligation.
That's what I was just going to say. And to me, I don't want a friend, and I don't want someone to be a friend to me if they feel they're obligated in
No, don't
any
be
type of
obligated.
way. Like, I
Yeah,
don't want to be that friend, and I don't want someone to be like that with me.
yeah,
It just doesn't make sense, because to me, then you could be sacrificing your own needs, wants, desires, path because you feel obligated to me. And I actually think, without realizing it, so many people use that as an excuse to not do what they should be doing or want to be doing. Oh, well, I can't upset this person. I
Exactly.
promised them I'd do this. And I'm just like, I'm not really big on promising people anything. And I don't
Mm-mm.
want promises to
No.
be made to me because it just doesn't make sense. Like, I change my mind all the time, and I'm cool if you change your mind all the time. Like,
Absolutely.
it's totally fine.
Like that's it. Like I want to be able to change. It's why it's why, no disrespect to anybody that's ever served, but it's why I never went in the military. Because I was like,
Mm,
what if I wake up one day and realize I don't want to be in the military anymore? And
yeah. And you're
like,
just like, they're like, sorry, bro.
yeah,
Oh,
it's one way Leanna and I ended up becoming married is because she never pushed it on me. She never, like I was very vocal about never wanting to be married, and she never said, "I'm going to leave you if you don't marry me." No, she didn't bring
mm-hmm.
that up, right? And like to me, the freest, like humans, we're born free, and then we find as we get older, we find new creative ways to enslave ourselves.
Yes.
Like we're literally born free, and it's like now how much can I enslave myself as I grow older? To then so that I can then get to my old age and want to free myself again and talk about how good it feels to be free.
Do you
And
think
it's
that's like we crave like this like comeback moment in a way? I feel like I'm having one of those like every 6 months though, so and
I
I
think
live pretty free.
I, I think we crave what society tells us success is.
Yeah.
That if you notice everything that society really promotes as success gives you less and less freedom. So, for instance, and I'm not saying, and I love being married, but what I'm saying is this, like marriage, which they don't really promote that in society that much anymore, but um even with something like that kind of concept, like really marriage is a contract. It's an arrangement between two people when you bring the state involved in it. It's not love, it's an arrangement.
Hmm.
It's a business deal. So there are things inside of that business deal that prevent you from just walking away from it without any repercussions. You know what I'm saying? And so when I always tell people when you do something like that, I think you need to spend a significant amount of time with that person off papers to make sure that this is something you really want to do. And I see so many times, I know we're kind of pivoting, I'll circle back, but I see so many times where people like, oh, I met her 4 months ago and like we're getting married now. And I'm like, damn, that was that person is going to change. So I always been big, and this is how society will tell you. They also say you're flaky in that way, right? Because they'll say, well, you're afraid
Mm,
of commitment.
you're afraid of commitment. I've heard that my
N-
whole life. And I'm
What
like,
if
actually, no, I put a really high value on marriage, which is why I'm like,
absolutely,
I gotta be really extra sure because if
exactly,
I get married, like, that's like I've committed to like that's it
that's it.
basically in my
Yeah,
mind. And that's
absolutely,
not something I need to feel whole.
that's right.
So,
You already are whole. You both are already whole people coming together.
right.
And I think a lot of people with anything that we kind of like enslave ourselves with, like we're doing it so that we can feel whole, so we can feel success. What is success? Wholeness.
Yeah. Yeah.
And and so we do it with, you know, and there's so many creative ways that it, and you look at it, right? What I like to do is say, who benefits off of me doing this? Like before you pump it up to make me feel like I'm a success story for doing this, who in the background that's not showing their face is benefiting from me doing this thing here? And so I'm very big off of I'm very big on like flaking, not and I say flaking out like um if
You're
it
big
doesn't
on listening to your authentic voice,
exactly.
which a
Yes.
lot of people see as being flaky.
Exactly. If you wake up in the morning, if you and I decide to do a podcast and you wake up in the morning and you're like, you're just not in it. You're just like, my spirit is telling me I don't need to drive to the studio and like
Hmm.
do the podcast. And I'll say, listen to that spirit, because what if you ignore that spirit and then you get in a car wreck? I can't bring you back from the dead. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Hmm.
what if flaking out would have saved your life?
Well, yeah, and I think too, like we talk about often about how our energy affects everything that we do and bleeds into everything we do. Like, if energetically I'm not there, I
Mm-hmm.
don't want to share that energy either because it's not my
Exactly.
best and highest energy. I want to be in a place where what I'm putting out and what I'm giving off in its entirety is coming from a positive and a high vibration, not one of obligation, which often comes off as anger or
Mm-hmm.
frustration or
Resentment.
yeah.
Like,
And so
damn, now
why
I
would I want to
resent you.
share that?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what obligation births resentment a lot of
Mm-hmm.
times. And we in America, I don't know how it is in other countries, it's even worse a lot of times, but what is tradition? Tradition is really obligation. There's many things that I am traditional about, but there are also many things that I'm like, hold up, tradition is just somebody else started doing something before I was born, and then the people that came after them start watching them doing it, and they started doing it. So basically, I'm just doing what somebody else started doing a long time ago. But what if I was the first person that invented the thing? Like, what if I did it a different
Mm-hmm.
way? Would the tradition now be that? So I started thinking about stuff like that. And then that's when people say, Robbie, you're thinking too deep into it. And I'm like, really? How is that thinking too deep? Somebody had to start the thing,
Mm-hmm. Well, I
you
think
know?
that's the problem is people don't want to think about things.
They don't.
I'm with you where I think deep about a lot of things that might seem like why would you want to think so deeply about that? But why wouldn't I?
Yeah,
I want to understand why things are the way that they are because
for
that's where
sure.
I decide if that is authentic to me or not.
Exactly.
And if you don't think, then you can't find your authentic voice because you don't know what you like and what you don't like, what sits well with you and what doesn't, like what raises your energy and what lowers your energy. So if you don't think, how do you know?
You don't. You just I think that's what I never had a midlife crisis. I'm 30, well, maybe it's not my time yet, but I'm 39, and I haven't had a midlife crisis, and I don't think I'll have one. And the reason why I don't think I'll have one is because I've always been living my authentic self. I'm doing exactly what I want to do every single day.
Mm-hmm.
I think midlife crisis comes to people that have been living a life that they didn't want to live, that they thought they were supposed to live. And they wake up one day and realize, like, shit, I'm close to the end. I better bring, like, I'm about to rebel. I'm about to buck the system. And I think that for me, I'm not with it. I'm not with it at all. But we talked about something earlier. When you live like this, it can appear that your circle is becoming smaller and smaller. But I would argue and say that it's actually becoming bigger and bigger.
Mm.
And the reason why is because actually obligation makes your circle smaller. And breaking free from the institution of obligation opens you up to a circle called the world. And so now I live by this principle of
Mm.
like for instance, I like going in nature, right? I meet interesting people everywhere I go, and I
Yeah.
enjoy them in that environment, and we walk away without exchanging numbers or anything. And so in that regards, I'm not like we're not obligated to like keep up with each other. We
Oh
just
my God.
enjoy each other
Yes.
in
In
that
the
moment.
moment.
Yeah, and then we part ways. And it's
Wow.
and now and because of that, my world has gotten so big. My circle now I still have an inner circle, but my circle itself though has gotten huge
That's
because
really so true.
yeah, because like if we feel like we've already met our group that we're gonna be with to the day that we die, we naturally reject interacting with other people in an authentic way a lot of times. Like, oh, I already
Mm.
got my circle. Like, yeah, I don't want to. Yeah. But when I go out, I'm, hey, how are you? Doing all right? Phenomenal. And I end up talking to people that, um, on the surface, it might not even look like we should even be talking to each other. Like, damn, what do you have in common with this 75-year-old woman walking her poodle right now? You're all tattooed up, you're jacked up, and like, what are you, And those are the people that I find the most interesting, and I
Mm-hmm.
can enjoy them and like, all right, have a great day. And we never see each other again.
You
But
are so fucking right about this. And this is like this simple thought that you just shared is like blowing my mind. And I'm literally seeing that unfold in my life right now.
hmm
Because these other relationships that I felt a big obligation to have actually cut off other relationships in my life, or more maybe we'll say like acquaintance in that circle, right? Which I think is
yeah,
kind of what you're talking about. These broader relationships that we can enjoy in the moment and can lift us up, but we get shut off to those the more we're obligated to people
yeah,
that we deem as really close to us.
exactly. You
Holy cow. Yeah.
it took me a while to realize that like it I didn't realize it until we moved to a new city.
Mm.
Cuz I'm like, damn, I'm already like I'm already like I'll cut somebody off, right? Like if I feel like they're not fit for my spirit. And I'm like, then we moved to a new city, but then I got to thinking like, why don't I feel lonely though? And I was like, oh, it dawned on me one day we were out walking. My wife was like, you speak to everybody. I said, yeah, I do. She's like, not everybody want to talk to you, you know? I said, I don't care. I want to talk to them. And I realized that one day we went bowling and there ended up being another couple beside us. So naturally we started talking to that couple and we enjoyed their company. And there was a thought of like, well, maybe y'all should exchange numbers. And I didn't.
Mm.
And I felt great about it because I got to enjoy that couple in that atmosphere without feeling like I had to follow up with them later on in life about something. But
Yes.
the cool thing is, if I ever come across that cat again, oh man, you look familiar. You look familiar too. Dang. Oh yeah. Now you have someone. So I feel like this. I used to think I needed a bunch of real friends, but I only need really one or two real friends, and
Mm-hmm.
then I have a gazillion acquaintances that I'm not obligated to,
Yep.
and that opens me up to the whole world.
Mm.
Versus somebody that's like, I'm the gatekeeper. I can open you up to this world of opportunity. Like people love to do that, right? Like they like to feel like they're the reason why you were put on.
Yep.
And I don't like feeling like that. I like I naturally avoid even standing beside certain people a lot of times to because I don't want them to like I'm the reason he got put on to this situation or that situation. Like that could be a flaw. But my world is opened up. You might see me with 75-year-old Mr. John hiking, and in the next breath you might see me with 18-year-old Keith who shoots videos and it who's tattooed up. You know what I mean? Like it just
Mm-hmm.
opens my world up and podcasting has been another thing, you know. So I think your inner circle might be closer, but your circle itself is still large, very large. Even if you consider your social media presence as your circle, like that's a huge circle.
That's so true. And how would you have the time to be a part of that circle, right? If you were constantly obligated to all these other things. Dude,
Exactly.
this is such a powerful thought. Like, this is completely,
Because I tell people all the
yeah,
time,
flip that paradigm for me. I love that.
it is a powerful paradigm. Because I like my phone goes off and it's like people that maybe have like known me from the past and stuff like that, and I'm like, man, I got like with everything that I'm doing as projects, I got time for like my wife, kids, Kate, and my business. That's about it. Like I don't have time to like be obligated to all these other people.
Yeah.
And so it feels good because I'm like, if this person gets mad that I didn't pick up the phone, like they wasn't my real bro anyway. Like I got shit to do. I'm taking over the world, you know, like
Mm-hmm.
we all are. We all are trying to go to a whole nother level. And like I respect um when I don't hear from somebody for a significant amount of time. Like I get it. They're not obligated to me. They're, you know, like it's the whole world is available for us. And that's the you know, I feel like I'm socially dating. You know what I mean? Like I'm just I don't
You're
I
like,
don't
hey, how are you? Let's have a nice
yeah.
conversation. And then we can both leave and say, oh, that was nice.
I yeah, exactly. I tell my wife all the time, like I have one night stands, one day stands with people. Like you should get that guy's number. Y'all seem to have a good time. I'm like, nah, I
No.
don't need it.
You
That
know,
like I
it's so funny because, like, I never even thought of that mindset being of obligation because I come across so many people all the time that I think, oh, should I stay in contact with that person? Like, no,
yeah,
it's okay to just
yeah.
allow yourself to have a moment with someone and never have another moment with him again.
It's yeah, it's okay. We don't have to we think that if we find something beautiful, we have to pluck it and take it home and put it in a
Oh
pot.
my God, you're so right.
Like we don't have to
Yep.
do that. Like my you know, I learned that one day when I was outside meditating one day, and when I was meditating for about an hour and a half, and when I opened my eyes, when I finally came to, there was a turtle sitting in front of me. And naturally I'm like, "Oh my god. I need to like I'm gonna go get a kiddie pool and I'm gonna build this turtle the most amazing resort ever. And I'm gonna make his life just phenomenal." That turtle lasted in that kiddie pool for one day. I came out the next day and the sun fried it. And that taught me a very valuable lesson. Just because I find something beautiful doesn't mean I have to put it in a cage.
Mm,
And that's what we, you know, that's the thing. It goes back to the analogy we were talking about a few days ago about people who love rescuing stray dogs. Like
yeah.
a stray dog is not stray, it's a free dog. The dog is free. It's born in the wild. Like it's a when I was a kid, we saw dogs roaming all the time. And so I love when I see people free. When I come across somebody that's like free spirited. And another thing, it makes people want to capture you more too.
Mm.
Like they see you as a challenge to capture.
Oh
Like I
my
need
God,
to
it's like real life Pokemon.
yeah.
I just have this song in my head. Gotta catch them all. Gotta catch them all.
That's exactly it.
But it's so true.
When I was out in the dating world, it was something that I knew immediately. All my bros used to like they would talk to every single girl they came across. And I was like, that just seems a little thirsty. Like just chill. and not be so thirsty, and you'll come across as something that they want to go after themselves. And
Mhm.
so that's how I landed my wife, FYI. And so I was just like, and first of all, I had other things on my mind other than that all the time, but it just makes people want to capture you. Like I remember when I first started the marketing company, the guy was like, if you're so awesome at marketing, why are you calling us trying to get us for customer as a customer then? And I'm like, oh, yeah, you're right. I should have, my phone should be ringing so much that I don't have to call anybody.
Mhm.
That's one way of looking at it. But yeah, freedom. But there's a lot of people who have a problem with that. When Leanna and I were not married, and this kind of goes in hand with this, but when we were not married, the amount of friends that I had on my end that were like, when are you gonna get married? When are y'all gonna get married? When are you gonna marry? When are you gonna marry? And I would say, first and foremost, why are you insecure? He was like, what do you mean? I said, I don't have to put her on papers to know she's gonna be there when I get home tonight. And the same people that were trying to get me to hurry up and do it were the same people that were not happy in their situation.
Mhm.
So it's like people who and I'm not saying that marriage is a I love, like I said, I love being in this relationship because to me it was just a natural progression anyway. Um and we both are still free. We do whatever we want. We are
Right.
there's she's not obligated to do what I want her to do. I'm not obligated to do what she wants me to do. Um but I see so many people that are in a hurry, whether it's that or whether it's like something else. They are in a hurry to enslave themselves, to make themselves,
Mhm.
and they call that responsibility.
No, it's not doing your due diligence to use your brain.
Yeah,
Like that's what Mike and I get that often as well, right? Like we've been together for 4 years. We
yeah,
own a home together. Well, when are you going to get married? Like,
yeah,
and we both talk about that. Like we know that's the next step in our relationship, but
yeah,
because we have a really good relationship and a solid foundation, like there's
yep,
not a hurry to make that happen.
exactly.
When we do it, we're like, oh, we want it to be like really cool and special.
Yeah,
So, because like we're taking that time to do that. And so, but there's
that's it.
no like rush. I think a lot of people, well, and we don't necessarily want to have children either. So, I think that
That's
I
another thing.
guess
I
I
bet you
could
guys could be getting some.
oh, we get, yeah. Not as much anymore because the people that know us, like, we've already been like, yeah, we're not planning on doing that.
Yeah,
Um, but I will say though, I think that's why so many people do rush into marriage because
yeah,
it's like, well, I want to be married before I have kids. And
yeah.
obviously, I don't think that's a bad thing.
No, no.
But I think that, like you said, you're in such a rush that you're not thinking about things beforehand.
Yeah,
And so I would say that, maybe that makes us a little bit more free to wait as long as we want to get married, I guess. I could see
yeah,
if we both wanted kids, maybe we would be married by now.
yeah, yeah,
I don't know. And with me being older than him, like maybe that would be a thing. So I guess like I think that's maybe where that plays in a little differently, but I still think that like if you have the freedom to make those choices before they happen, allowing yourself to kind of live in those situations beforehand or really
yeah.
think about what you want and be clear about that um, is so important. We try to chase what we want instead of becoming what we want first. And I
Ooh, quote of the day.
and I think by becoming what we want first, then the right things much more flow naturally to us, and then we don't have to, things might happen faster because of that, but it's because we're energetically aligned to make those decisions instead of forcing
Yeah,
those those decisions or commitments, I guess.
100%. 100. I'm all the way with it, because it's you just feel better when you come from that. I always say, become the life you want to experience, and then you no longer
Mhm.
have to, like you said, you don't have to longer have to chase it because you are it. If I
It
don't have to,
comes to you.
yeah, I don't have to seek the truth when I know I'm the truth. All I got to do is study
Yes.
myself. All I got to do is
Yes.
read myself. You know, um, but I respect people that are like, you know what, I thought about it and this ain't the right move for me right now, and I'm like, all right, cool, great, like,
Yes.
that's phenomenal. That's what you want to do. You want somebody that's thinking about things clearly. Don't do it because you feel like you need to please me. You're the one that's involved in this too. And I love those relationships like that where it's just like it's just freedom. My
Mhm.
son, my oldest son, he's both of them. I always tell them about, like, just make sure you're like real with yourself before you try to be real with anybody else. Like, and if you are real to yourself, you will be misunderstood, because
Yes.
pe- misunderstanding is like this is what misunderstanding is. I figured it out. The nutshell of it is this. Oh, I don't understand why Kate's doing that. Because I already have a predetermined vision for Kate in my mind, and I don't understand why she won't abandon the thing that she wants to do for the vision that I have for her. That
Yes.
that's all misunderstanding is. Like they're not even trying to see where you're coming from. They're just
Trying to
they
fit
just don't
you in their box that they
in their
envision
box.
for you. Dang.
Exactly.
That's so
So
true.
so I'm like, you have to be comfortable being misunderstood.
Mm.
I was listening to a podcast earlier. Young Dolph was like one of my favorite artists, and
Mhm.
they asked him like why him and this other rapper didn't like each other. He said, "Well, actually, Young Dolph liked him in the beginning. Like, he loved him. Like, he thought he was awesome. He always talked about him." He says, "But I think the fact that Young Dolph didn't need him
Mm.
didn't rub him the right way. Like, the fact that he didn't need anybody. He came in this thing independent with his own money. He didn't need anybody to co-sign him. It rubbed the other guys the wrong way because they wanted to co-sign him. They wanted to be the ones that say, we put you in the game." But he's like, I'm the game. I'm the game. I'm gonna make y'all play my game because I'm playing my own game. And that's how much confidence you have to have in yourself if you're really gonna live to the beat of your own drum. Like, I'm putting myself on, and I'm very big on that too. Like, I'm not gonna take credit for nothing you do. Um, because you're the one that had to do it. Even if I gave you some information,
Mhm.
I'm not gonna say, "Oh, I'm the one told her about that." Like, what is that to make me? What does that do for my ego? For me to broadcast that I told you some information, you're the one that actually went and put in the work. So I got to
Right.
give all the credit to you. So I think, people have a problem with that. People have a problem with people who march to the beat of their own drum. And I think, to those people, FYI, I'm super flaky.
Right? Oh, new t-shirts. Super
It's
flaky.
super flaky.
I
I will flake out on myself.
will
You-
flake out on anyone. Yep.
yeah, like, no hard feelings. Like I just thought about it now. I'm
But
not
isn't
doing
that
that today.
how it goes though? And maybe we'll wrap it up on this. Like, isn't that kind of how it goes when you really are aligned and in tune with yourself? You're paying so closely attention to what you energetically need in that moment, in that day,
Yeah.
in that time frame that, you know, it's not like routine and consistency is amazing. Like we need that too, right?
Mm-hmm.
Especially if you're
Mm-hmm.
a business owner, especially if you want to
Yes.
do big things with your life. You have to have some sort of that discipline in your life, okay?
Facts.
However, our society has pushed us so far into routine and you have to do this at this time,
Mm-hmm.
this, that we ignore our internal clock and our internal energetic needs. So the more you're in tune with yourself, the more you're going to listen to that. And that
Mm.
energetic part of you changes all the time,
Facts. Facts. 100%.
which means you're going to be flaky sometimes because I might commit to something and then say, energetically, that doesn't feel good to me today. But if it's something I still want to do, what will I say? Let's reschedule.
Yeah. So I can
I
work on my.
still,
Yeah. Let me.
I want to be present for that, or I want to be in this
Yes.
space for that thing. Like I'm not writing it off. Just right now is not a good time. I'm not going to show up as my best self. So like, why would you want anything less than that from me? I don't want
Exactly.
less than that from you.
Exactly. You're 100% right. That's how I feel. And it's so weird. Guess who texts me? I haven't talked to him in 3, 4 weeks. We, this is the power of the universe. Mr. John just texted me. The Mr.
Wow.
John I told you about, 75-year-old Mr. John
Yeah.
that I just talked to you about, just texted me. The weirdest thing. Manifestation right there.
What's up, Mr. John?
Mr. John. Shouts out Mr. John. He's an awesome, awesome man. Awesome man. So I really appreciate this, Kate.
Ditto.
This I guess we're gonna call this "It's Okay to Be Flaky."
Yes. I love this.
Absolutely. You enjoy your day and let's connect soon, all right?
All right, that sounds good. Have a good weekend.